On this episode of Locked On Angels, every team would love to have their number 5 starter pitch a quality start because that almost guarantees a victory, right? But not for the Halos. We're going to share how they messed up a quality start last night and didn't take advantage of the Padres starter who wasn't very good. This team, I'll tell you. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube and leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen. We are a part of Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. And my name is Mike Frisch, one half of the Super Halo Bros and co-host of Locked On Angels. My brother John is normally with me. He's not with me today because the Angels made him so sick that he couldn't be on the show. And I think we all feel the same way, man. It's just frustrating watching this team, and we'll talk about them in just a moment. This is our 4th season at Locked On Angels. We're here every weekday, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And on today's show, we are going to talk a little bit about that bullpen that the Angels have right now and the news on Ben Joyce that wasn't very good and what that means for this bullpen. We're also going to talk about in our final segment, Kyren Paris and what the Angels need to do with him and what he needs to do to improve. We want to see the old version of Kyren Paris, the early season version of Kyren Paris, not the one that we've been seeing recently. But first, let's recap that game last night against the Padres. The Angels did lose that game 5-1. Now, the first game was a game that they should have lost and they won. Game 2 was a game where they should have won and they lost. But last night was the definition of the rubber match, like the make or break game. And the Angels just didn't rise to the occasion, man. It was a game of missed opportunities. Kyle Hendricks, the Angels' 5th starter, pitched a pretty good game. He only made one mistake in this game with 2 outs and 2 on in the first inning. Xander Bogaerts hits a 3-run home run. But then after that, he did everything that the Angels would want a number 5 starter to do. He went 6 innings, gave up 5 hits, the 3 earned runs on the home run, and then he only walked 1 guy and he struck out 4. Now, any good team that gets a quality start from their 5th guy in the rotation is usually a team that can find a way to win. If your starting pitcher is going to give up just 3 earned runs, gosh, you're in this game, right? But the Angels just struggled again offensively. They couldn't get back into the game, even though they had a lot of time to try to get back in the game. Taylor Ward hit a solo shot in the 2nd inning, and the Angels are back to that again, hitting solo home runs. They just can't seem to capitalize when runners are on base. Matthew Lugo, he got on base. He doubled in the 3rd inning. Tim Anderson, he flew out to right field. That moved Lugo to 3rd base with 1 out. And the Angels actually have a 54% success rate when they get runners at 3rd base. They get them in more than 50% of the time. I know it doesn't feel like that. I know that as we watch this team, we're like, that can't be true. That has to be a made-up stat. But Jeff Fletcher tweeted it out just a couple of days ago, and I confirmed it. I looked it up, and it's true. The Angels get that runner home at 3rd base with less than 2 outs more than 50% of the time. But Zach Neto came up, and he popped out to first. He swung at a sinker at the top of the zone that would have gone for a ball. And that's what happens with this team in those moments, isn't it? Even with somebody like Zach Neto, who we desperately need to come through in that moment to knock in that run, because that makes it 3-2, and the Angels are only down by 1. And I think that the closer the game gets, the more opportunities they have to knock in the runners will come their way. Like, it's not an insurmountable lead. And you would think 2 runs, 1 run is not insurmountable, but for this team, it just seems to be something that they can't overcome. So Neto swings at the sinker at the top of the zone. It would have gone for a ball. Then Shonowell walks, and then Moncada strikes out. Now the Angels, they did strike out just 7 times last night and not 10 times, but their strikeouts are always at the wrong time. They just can't seem to make contact to move runners over when necessary. There's really no reason to have a runner at third with less than 2 outs and not look for something to take the other way or even just to hit a sac fly. I mean, it's not hard to do, right? Like, and I know I'm saying that this is a nerd on a podcast. I get it. But the Angels never do that. They did in the first couple of weeks of the season. We've talked about that team often. It feels like a whole different season now. It feels like a whole different team now. And then continuing with the theme of missed opportunities, can we talk about the Padres starter, Randy Velasquez? This guy came into the night last night with a 1.59 whip. And that's one of my favorite stats because I think it shows how much traffic is on the bases and what that pitcher is going to allow. And so he comes in with a 1.59 whip, 8.5 hits per 9 innings, 5.9 walks per 9 innings, 4.2 Ks per 9 innings. I mean, this guy is all over the place. He's all over the place, right? And the Angels have an opportunity to take advantage of him. His strikeout to walk ratio is 0.72. So essentially 3 of the 4 batters, or 3/4 of the strikeouts for every walk he gives up. And that's not great. That's not great at all. But what do the Angels do with this information? Well, here's Vasquez's line for the night. 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run. It was the Ward home run. 1 walk, 5 Ks on 90 pitches. A guy who walks a lot of batters, doesn't strike out a lot of batters. Last night, he doesn't walk many batters, and he strikes out 5. Gives up only 4 hits. The Angels just could not take advantage of this guy. And here's even what's more frustrating. All of Vasquez's pitches combined for just 49% in the zone. That means that 51% of his pitches were out of the zone. 90 pitches for him last night, 55 for strikes. And why did that happen? Because the Angels swung at 30% of the pitches outside of the zone. This is a team that they're one of the best teams when it comes to getting pitches in the zone. In fact, they were, I think, the top team or in the top 5. I think there was a stat. I'd have to look it up. But off the top of my head, I know that they were at least in the top 3. They had the best percentage of meatball pitches. They had the best percentage of pitches in the zone. And John and I talked about it on this show just last week. That means they're missing their pitches. And they did last night, but they were swinging a lot of pitches out of the zone. They made contact on 79% of the pitches that were outside of the zone pitches, which means the bad pitches were the ones that they should have laid off on, and they either made contact, fouled them away, or put them in play. They would have been balls, and they swung at them, and they were not. That's what the Angels did last night. They were just happy at the plate, swinging at everything, and just over anxious. And then when they got runners on, when they did get runners on, they just were squeezing the bat even tighter and just looking for anything to swing at. This approach, this strategy, if you want to call it that, from Johnny Washington is pathetic. And I don't know what needs to happen for these hitters to change the strategy, or for Johnny Washington to change the strategy. I don't know how many losses they need to have and how many series losses they need to have to go, you know what, we probably need to change something, right? I don't know what it's going to take for Perry Manassian to get on the phone and go, dude, turn the page, coach. Let's figure out something else. The Padres ran away with this game in the 8th inning thanks to a Moncada error and 2 walks from Jose Fermin. It made it 5-1. The Angels should have been out of the inning, but Moncada did make that error. And even without Moncada's error, Fermin letting this one get away was just kind of the story of the bullpen, right? The Angels really had the entire game to try to come back. They really had the entire game to score 2 runs to tie, 3 runs to take the lead, and they just couldn't do it. They couldn't do anything. And yet, it was another really good start from Kyle Hendricks. And the 1 through 9, the hitters 1 through 9, just had a terrible game plan. If they had a game plan at all. And so it made me consider, like who's responsible for this, right? When things go wrong, that's the question you ask. Who's responsible for this? I'm not responsible. John's not responsible. Fans are not responsible. So don't yell at each other. Don't get mad at each other, right? Don't get mad at Wayne. Don't get mad at Gooby. Don't even get mad at the guys at AM 830. They're not responsible for this. Who's responsible for this? Is it Ron Washington and how he's managing this team? They cut back on giving scouting reports because it was too much information. Is that why this team struggled last night? Is it the players? Are they not taking advantage of a guy who can't throw strikes, who's throwing pitches all over the place? 5 Ks, 1 walk from Vasquez last night. I mean, that's a 5-to-1 K to walk ratio. And that is not who he's been this year. This was a game that the Angels should have won. This was a pitcher that they should have taken advantage of. They're fighting in the previous 2 games against pretty good pitchers, really good pitchers in Dylan Cease, right? And in this game, they just waved the white flag. The Angels didn't take advantage of this guy. They're the lowest walk percentage in the league, 6.7%. Doesn't it feel like weeks ago that team that we saw at the beginning of the year, they could have recovered from 3 runs down in the first? It would have just been not insurmountable. It wouldn't have been so deflating. That's what made this team so much fun to watch at the beginning of the year. But that team isn't here anymore, right? And so here's my commitment to you. And I'm gonna talk to John about this as well. We're just gonna stop talking about that team from the first few weeks, because that is not the team that we're watching now. And unfortunately, what they did the first few weeks is easily implemented right now. But somebody has not watched the tape. Somebody is not communicating to these hitters, to these players. Somebody's not talking to this team and telling them, here's what we did. Why don't we do that again? Why don't we just hit copy and paste? It's frustrating, man. Oh, and by the way, Joe Adell, he's frustrating. One of our everydayers said that he's done with Joe Adell. I'm on board, man. And John will probably get mad at me, but I'm on board because that guy, he runs into a double play in the 7th inning. Didn't need to. He could have stopped. The ball it was a ground ball, second base. He could have stopped, could have allowed the runner to get to first base before he gets tagged out. But what does Joe Adell do? Puts his head down and just runs right into the tag. I mean, he's got the lowest baseball IQ, and I'm not looking to insult him. He just got a very low baseball IQ, and that just seems like something that he can't change. So Angels lose this game 5-1, and it's frustrating. I get it. Frustrating to be a fan of this team, and yet here we are, right? Because we can't turn it off. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We're going to talk about Kyren Paris in our third segment today, and we're going to share some information about what he can do to try to improve, and it actually is something that maybe the whole team should do. So we're going to talk about that in our third segment coming up. Hey, you should get the supplies that you need from the site that's made for the skilled trade. It's SupplyHouse.com. Whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, SupplyHouse is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you're going to find exactly what you need delivered fast, coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, SupplyHouse offers expert support and industry-leading services. And so you're always going to be able to talk to a real person. If you're in trouble or need some wisdom, they're going to be there to help you out. And Trade Pros, if you're looking for an extra edge, check out their free Trade Master program. It offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. Just join the Trade Master program by visiting supplyhouse.com/TM. And then if you want to order HVAC, plumbing, or electrical supplies in just a few clicks, go to supplyhouse.com, use our promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. Again, that's SupplyHouse.com. This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and you are watching and listening to Locked On Angels. My name is Mike Frisch, one half of the Super Halo Bros and co-host of Locked On Angels. And can we talk about the Angels bullpen for just a moment? These stats are eye-opening. Locked On Hall of Famer Brent McGuire tweeted them out yesterday. Entering last night, the Halos bullpen was either last in a good stat category or first in a bad stat category, which means they're not doing good. Here's where they rank entering last night's game against the Padres. Tied for last in ERA with an ERA of 7.07. Tied for last in WHIP, 1.73, which means they're almost averaging 2 people on base every single inning, and it feels kind of like that, right? They're last in FIP, field independent pitching, which kind of determines how much they control on the mound, 5.38 FIP. They're last in Fangraphs WAR, negative 1.3. They have the highest OPS against, on base plus slugging percentage, 902. They have the highest home runs per 9, 1.49. And then the most home runs allowed, 28. So this bullpen has not been good. And then to just put salt in the wound, we got word yesterday about Ben Joyce. Angels PR tweeted that Ben Joyce underwent surgery to repair his right shoulder early that morning. He's expected to miss the rest of the season. Everydayers, he went from shoulder inflammation to out for the season. And isn't that classic Angels? Isn't that, we're almost expecting that from Mike Trout, aren't we? And that's just classic Angels. Anthony Rendon fouls a ball off of his leg. Oh, he got a bone bruise. And he hasn't played ever since, right? That's what's so frustrating about this team. And they just seem to have a closed-door policy when it comes to any sort of communication. And I'm not quite sure why. I don't see what you lose by communicating, hey, man, Ben Joyce, he tore something. And so we're going to get him help and get him the right doctor, and he's going to have surgery, right? I don't know what they lose by being honest. I would say they lose nothing. Now, is it our business? Maybe it's not our business, but we're fans of this team, right? And so we want to know what's going on. And when Ben Joyce has shoulder inflammation, the reason why we all get skeptical is because they're not telling us what happens with injuries. They've shut the doors, they've closed the windows. And so the word we get is one of our best relievers is now out. And I think we all saw this coming, right? When his last 2 outings, his velo was down. We knew something was up. And what did they say? Oh, he was just tired. Oh, he just, went back-to-back days. I mean, they give us a bunch of excuses. So that's just frustrating. Why are we fans of this team? Like, why are we fans of the Angels? They're so mean to us. This is an abusive relationship, friends. But here we are. Can't turn it off, right? So the question is, who should replace Joyce? And I think that there are a couple of in-house options, but those in-house options are options that we're going to have to wait on, like Robert Stevenson. Hey, remember, he's on this team, didn't pitch all of last year, was hurt. He's currently rehabbing from Tommy John surgery, and he began his rehab assignment on Tuesday with Class A Inland Empire. And the maximum length of a rehab assignment for a pitcher is 30 days. And pitchers who are coming back from Tommy John or the injury that he had, he can actually extend it to another 30 days. It's not expected that will happen, but it might be something that the Angels might consider just to make sure that he's ready to go. But if they don't extend his time, he could be up next month. He could be on this team next month. Sam Bachman is another name who was out with an injury similar to what Jared Walsh had, the back injury, the thoracic outlet syndrome. And he last week is pitching some rehab assignments. He's a week into that. He pitched for the 3rd time on Tuesday, and the first time at AAA, Bachman was pitching really well. Pitched a scoreless inning. He had his fastball at 98 miles an hour. Now, his rehab assignment is expiring in about 3 weeks. but he still has options, so the Angels won't need to activate him or bring him to the major league level. But I think for the future of Sam Bachman, being a bullpen guy is probably the best move for him. He pitched for the bullpen a couple of years ago, and he was really good. I remember one game where he came in and it was tight and it was tough, and he got out of the inning. I think he's somebody that we could really count on, kind of that Ryan Johnson spot, the sixth, seventh inning spot, and help be a bridge to maybe a Zephyr John and a Jansen, although Zephyr John and Jansen need to get it together as well. Another name that's available is Jose Quijada. And when I say that, I throw up a little bit in my mouth because he's been so frustrating, right? He was designated for assignment at the start of the season and then went to the Trash Pandas, where he currently is. During the spring, Quijada posted an ERA of 12.50 through 7 1/3 innings, and he allowed at least one run in 5 of his 8 relief appearances. He's allowed 13 hits and issued 5 walks while only striking out 6 batters. So I don't know if that's a guy you want to go with, because he's going to just do what the Angels bullpen has been doing, and you don't want that. You want somebody effective. And so other options besides these 3 would be like Michael Darrell Hicks, somebody who's been up already, but he hasn't been good. And then there is a free agent option, and it's an option we've talked about on this show, and that is David Robertson. And he's 40. He's probably going to be $5 million, maybe $3 million if you get lucky. I don't know if the Angels would even want to do that, but he's not pitching anywhere. He isn't signed anywhere as of this recording. And so he might be an option for the Halos as well. And then there's some other names that are still out there that are kind of floating around. But what will the Halos do? And what I think they'll do is they'll probably sit with what they have right now. And then when Robert Stevenson is available and Sam Bachman is available, we'll probably see them. Now, to their credit, they have made some decisions that have been surprising, like DFAing Quijada and moving some pieces around and bringing up some guys. So we'll probably see some familiar faces that we've seen in the past come back up. But they need some help in that bullpen. And maybe the help comes from 2 guys who have been injured. And it might be Sam Bachman and Robert Stevenson. So a lot of options for the Angels. They need some help. They got to get things together. I really like Jose Fermin, but that guy just seems to fall into the habit of losing his spot, losing his release point, and missing a lot. Last night, he was overthrowing his off-speed stuff, and a lot of those went down and in. A lot of those were bouncing to the plate. I really like him, but he's still young. I guess as I talk about this out loud, I think the reality has hit me is it's like, well, maybe we should just bring up some young guys and let them develop, because right now this team doesn't look like it's going anywhere. I know that their plan is to get to the playoffs, right? That's what they said. That's what Artie said. But I don't think they're getting there. And I don't think they're going to get there if they're just going to stand pat. They have to do something with this bullpen. What should they do? I'd love to hear from you, and we can even talk about it tomorrow on Fan Mail Friday. Comment below. What would you do if you're Perry Manassian, if you're the Angels? What would you do to help improve this bullpen? What would you do to fill in Ben Joyce's spot? Who would you bring up? Who would you sign? What do you think the Angels actually will do? Will they stand pat and just wait for people to get healthy? Seems like that might be the move that they make. Hey, coming up in our third segment, we're going to talk about Kyren Paris and what he needs to do. And maybe what he needs to do is what all the hitters need to do. We'll talk about that in just a moment. You know what got me excited for 2025 was Kyren Paris. He got me excited in spring training because I saw a guy who was different. He was different than what he was last year. Now, there were some questions. Jonah and I discussed this on the show during spring training about Kyren Paris and can he do this against legit major league pitching? Because a lot of the people that he was facing in the spring were guys from AAA, AA, single A, but he did face some marginal major league pitching. And so we're like, well, I guess you just got to give him a shot, right? And the Angels did. They kept him on the roster. They allowed him to play, and the fans loved him because he started to hit, and he started to hit well. And then pitchers adjusted to him. And he went through a stretch where he was like 0 for 15, 0 for 20, and he struck out half the time. In fact, right now, he has struck out in the at-bats that he has. He struck out at least 50% of the time. So the guy has been figured out. And it's time for him to figure out what he needs to do. And so what does he need to do to overcome the struggles? Well, Kyren Paris said first that he needs to remain confident. He said being confident is something that hasn't gone away. Paris said confidence is definitely there. And he said the reason why he's still confident is because he's proven that he can already hit major league pitching. He can actually be an effective offensive guy. He can be a dangerous guy in this lineup at this level of ball. So he's confident in himself. And it's his confidence, according to Ron Washington, that's why he's putting him in the lineup almost every day. That's why he wants him in the lineup almost every day. Wash said the reason why I keep putting him out there is because I don't see him lacking confidence. I don't see him losing his confidence. Wash called that sustained confidence evidence of Kyren Paris' maturity as a player and as a human. Wash said that Paris is working and he has the confidence. There's the word again. He has the confidence to be able to do something. He believes he's going to do something. But here's the problem. Confidence doesn't help you adjust. Confidence doesn't reverse the trend that you are facing right now. You're striking out a lot. You're missing a lot of your pitches. Pitchers seem to have figured you out. So what did Wash and what did Kyren say about what else needs to change? Not just that you need to continue to be confident, but what else? Well, according to Wash, he said that Paris needs to stop striking out so much. It feels obvious, right? I could have said that. I see that. He added that Johnny Washington and the other coaches are working with Kyren diligently on trying to get him to cut his swing down with 2 strikes. And if he can do that, I don't think that he'll have as many strikeouts as he had. And Paris agreed. Paris said it's a matter of being consistent with everything I do every day and not missing my pitch when I get it. That's the same narrative that John and I talked about when we talked about Johnny Washington in the interview that he gave about what he's doing with this offense, with these hitters, when he was talking to Sam Blum. That's the same narrative. You got to have a 2-strike approach. You got to cut down on your swing, shorten it up. That's the same thing. Now, is that wrong? That's not wrong. But again, it feels just like Johnny Washington is looking at an Excel spreadsheet and hitting copy and paste for everybody and telling them that they're all going to do the same thing. I don't think it's wrong. Kyren does need to have a 2-strike approach. Kyren needs to shorten up his swing. But all of those things are things that he's obviously aware of, and yet nothing has changed when he gets up to the plate. So to me, that doesn't scream confidence or lack of confidence. What it screams is a lack of maturity. That he just doesn't know as a mature baseball player what he needs to do each and every at bat. That he just loses it as soon as he gets up there. And that seems to be a trend for some of the young players, doesn't it? I mean, I mentioned Joe Adell in the first segment. They walk up to the plate or go to the outfield. For Adell, it's outfield as well, and even on the bases. And then everything that has been downloaded into their brain falls out the side of their head. And nothing changes. They're doing the exact same thing. And truthfully, the whole starting 9 is doing the exact same thing. And so I think everything that Wash said and everything that Paris said here is good. I think it's all true. I think it's exactly what he needs to do. He needs to shorten up his swing. He needs to be confident. He needs to look for his pitch and not miss it. Problem is that that's the same narrative that we've heard the last couple of weeks, and nothing's changed. So I don't know if Johnny Washington has communicated anything else, or if he's just banging the drum of the same thing in the same way before every game. And if that's the case, man, that's grounds for dismissal from your job, because the people that you are leading are not responding to you. The people that you are coaching are not receiving your coaching. And so it feels like we're back to that conversation again. And even with Wash, it doesn't feel like the team's really responding to him. They're going to let him go? No. They're going to keep him all year. They're going to let Johnny Washington go? No. They're going to keep him all year. Unless this thing really falls off and breaks apart and goes down, I can see those guys staying around all year long, because I just don't think that they're going to make those dramatic decisions. I think that they're just going to put it back on the players to try to figure it out. And can I just repeat what I said last week? This feels like the same team now that they were last year. This feels like they haven't grown. Feels like they haven't developed. Feels like they haven't done anything to move forward. At least right now. That the first couple of weeks, that was a different team. But I promised we weren't going to talk about them. So I'm not going to talk about them. The team right now feels like a repeat of what we saw last year. And in some ways, maybe even worse, because they're not making any sort of contact. They're not moving any sort of runners from first to third, or having productive outs, or hitting sacrifice flies. This team is just a mess. It's a mess. And yet here we are, because we can't turn it off. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. You can get local analysis on a national scale, and you can find Game Night on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. You can check us out on social media, first on Twitter at Locked On Angels, and you can connect with John and I on Twitter and Instagram at SuperHalo Bros. We love interacting with you there. And we would love to interact with you and hear from you on social media and in the comments below, because tomorrow is Fan Mail Friday. So let's talk about this team, but let's talk about this team in the way that you want to talk about this team. And if you don't want to tweet at us or send us a direct message, you can call us on our voicemail line. We'd love to hear from you. Leave us about a 1-minute message, 714-409-6396. We'll play all of that. We'll talk about all of that tomorrow on Locked On Angels, because it's a Fan Mail Friday. You get to own the show. Hope and John will be back, maybe because it's a day off. The Angels won't make him sick and he can join us. But I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you, our everydayers, tomorrow on Locked On Angels. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for hanging with me. And go Angels? Maybe. Sort of. I guess. Can't turn it off.